Hello everybody, welcome to the Saturday News. Today we talk about a WWE star who has agreed a new deal.
Wrestling legend Butch Reed has unfortunately passed away.
A huge SmackDown name set to return next week.
The plans for Angel Garza in the Royal Rumble that were scrapped.
And the next big thing has signed a developmental deal with WWE. Hello everyone, I am Gareth from WhatCulture Wrestling.
I'm Adam from WhatCulture Wrestling, and this is the news.
So, straight away, we're going to talk about something very, very close to our hearts because everyone loves this man. We all love Cesaro, and obviously, it was spoken about quite recently that he was in the midst of potentially leaving WWE because his deal was set to expire around WrestleMania 37. But now, according to Dave Meltzer of the Wrestling Observer newsletter, that is not going to be a thing anymore. He's potentially, we think he has signed a deal with the company. He might not have actually put pen to paper yet, but there's been at least a verbal agreement, so it's looking like he will be sticking around for quite some time. But it's quite interesting to note with this that apparently, over the last couple of weeks, you may have noticed, there's been a little bit of a push, let's say, behind Shinsuke Nakamura, and this all came off the back of that gauntlet match, that big, let's say, re-coming out party for Shinsuke, return face and all the rest of it. That happened, but like a couple of weeks before that, it was rumoured that Cesaro was going to be the person who was going to be involved in that match. This was all Daniel Bryan's idea. He was like, yeah, we can put him over huge. I love Cesaro. He's great. But he was not put in that position because his contract was expiring and they weren't really sure if he was going to be signing on at that moment. So, bit of a weird one. He's now, if you've been watching SmackDown over the last couple of weeks, he's been killing it. He killed it again last night. Absolutely battered Daniel Bryan nearly broke his back in half with that insane backbreaker, which was just ridiculous. But this is good news for Cesaro. Like, what do we think going forward?
Yeah, fantastic news, like you say. I think we sort of debated it at the time when it comes to him about whether or not it would be best for him to leave and go to AEW, or if he's happy where he is and doing what he's doing, then great as well. And like you say, he's been putting on spectacular matches. He's had quite a few with Daniel Bryan recently, and I thought it was emblematic of the fact that, yeah, we like you again now you signed a new contract, that he got such another impressive victory over Daniel Bryan last night. Maybe even the start of a push for him. Maybe that's been part of the negotiations of, all right, you know, I will commit, but you do finally need to pull the trigger on at least putting me in the world title picture. I'm not suggesting he is going to be the man to take the title off Roman Reigns, but I could easily see him challenge Roman at a B-level pay-per-view, like Cesaro versus Reigns, if you want to do something at Fastlane, or putting Cesaro, let's say, in the Elimination Chamber with a whole host of other names like Shinsuke to face Roman for that title. I think it'd be ideal. And like you say, I can't wait to do the SmackDown review later and talk about that Bryan Cesaro match and that horrific looking backbreaker. I couldn't get over that. I winced out of my bed this morning watching that.
It was one of them where you just didn't know how bad it was going to get. It started off horrific, it got worse, and then he just put him in the worst, most intense sharpshooter I've ever seen in my life. If you've not watched it yet, go watch it and then come and join us for the SmackDown review because it is just ridiculous.
I can only imagine Brian thinking, well, thank God that torture rack's over. Oh my God, my back's broken. Then he gets spun round with his spine hanging off, and then, yeah, that was a submission I could believe because I would have tapped out about 5 minutes before. But yes, we'll talk about it all later on in the SmackDown review. If you want to listen to that, WhatCulture Wrestling, wherever you get your podcast from, go and search for it, go and subscribe and that sort of thing. Right, some sad news to tell you about next. Some really sad news to wake up to. Wrestling legend Butch Reed has passed away. The news broke last night. He was aged just 66, passed away due to heart complications. Of course, known for his time in Mid-South Wrestling, the NWA, WCW, WWE, of course, for being a part of Doom with Hall of Famer Ron Simmons, and for being a former WCW World Tag Team Champion. There was a message posted on Butch Reed's official Instagram account confirming the sad news. It said, to everyone who reached out, God bless you. Today we lost a great man due to heart complications. Bruce Butch Reed passed away. Butch is in heaven now with the wrestling gods. I'm sure he's already booked for a heavyweight championship match. Once again, thank you for all the prayers. We will keep this page going in his memory. For funeral arrangements, send me a DM for information if you'd like to attend. God bless everyone, and God bless in heaven, Hacksaw Butch Reed. A whole outpouring of support, Gareth, that we've seen on social media in the aftermath of this news breaking. Awful to read that.
It really is. It's just a massive shame when you lose somebody so respected in the wrestling community, just as a thing. I thought it was really quite touching. I read something Dave Meltzer put on Twitter about Hacksaw's family, saying that he was a huge fan of Will Hobbs in AEW.
I saw that.
and said that they wanted to reach out. Obviously, that he never got the chance to reach out to Will Hobbs and say how much of a big fan he was, but they just wanted to say, yeah, he really loved you and he saw you as like the next big thing in your own right. And it's incredibly sad, but it's lovely seeing the community come together, and SmackDown last night paying homage to him, paying tribute. So you like to see that, but it is just really sad news.
Exactly. Our thoughts and prayers are, of course, with Butch Reed's immediate family and friends.
But speaking of SmackDown, there was a promo last night, a promo video package, talking about the return of a big old star going back to the blue brand. It is, of course, Seth Rollins, who was, obviously, if you watched over the last week or so, you've seen he returned probably officially to like the Royal Rumble. He came back and he had a few eliminations. Didn't last too long because the match was near enough over by the time he did arrive. But it's looking like he is now going to be coming back next week on SmackDown. He's returned with his, I nearly said Monday Night Messiah. He's not that. He's the Friday Night
SmackDown Savior.
SmackDown Savior. That's the one. So he's still the SmackDown Savior. He's still got his hilarious singing music where it's something out of a video game. So that's still going down. It's going to be very interesting to see what they do with him on SmackDown, obviously, because you've got this mega heel at the top, Roman Reigns. Obviously, he's got his connection to Rollins. Does he act as like a lower tier heel? Does he go for that into that Intercontinental title scene? If so, Big E, Seth Rollins, take my money.
Yeah, I'm really excited to see what they do next with him. I thought they were going to do, I suggested this on our SmackDown preview, they might do some awkward segment backstage where Seth bumps into Edge and goes, all right, mate, remember when you tried to kill me to get the authority back? But they didn't go for that. I'm intrigued to see what they're doing with him. I felt a bit of a bait and switch with last night's SmackDown. There was Bianca Belair and Edge promised, and we found out neither of them are giving confirmation as to who they're going to face. You would assume they are both going to challenge members of the Blue Brand as a result of winning the Royal Rumble matches. But that leaves Seth, in this situation, I don't know what he's going to do. Maybe, fingers crossed, if they don't go in that direction, although I do really like it with him challenging for the Intercontinental Championship, maybe you follow up on the fact that he was the one who hoyed Daniel Bryan out and broke everyone's hearts on Sunday. Like you say, whether he's facing Big E or Daniel Bryan as a story going into something like WrestleMania, I think that would be just ideal. Or maybe he's going to feud with Christian, who's amazingly back on a part-time basis.
I mean, there could be that, but then there's also all that incredible potential that we've not explored yet with the Rey Mysterio feud.
Honestly, I want to see that as much as I want to see more stuff with the Mysterios and King Corbin, if I'm honest. But
let's not open that kettle of fish. That's just
no. I still think there's something there with that gimmick, but please don't do any 10-minute long sermons to start SmackDown off. It's a good show. Don't ruin it. Although, welcome back, as the Dudleys have informed me, no doubt are desperate to get out of the house now that Becky Lynch is on looking after the baby duties, basically. Right, let's move on and talk about the Lothario that is Angel Garza. He sort of disappeared off our screens. He split, obviously, from Andrade and Zelina Vega, one of the worst stables in history, that. Not in terms of how much I hated them, just in terms of pure records of how many times they lost, regardless of who was in the stable. I mean, Austin Theory was in there they were rubbish, basically. But I love Angel Garza. I love this gimmick. And yeah, the WWE just seemingly soured on it a little bit and not really asked about it. He was apparently, according to a report in the Wrestling Observer, set to be a part of the Royal Rumble match on Sunday. And was kind of pulled at the last minute. It was meant to be number 20. He was replaced late on instead by Otis. The plan, according to Meltzer and the Wrestling Observer, was they were going to have a, quote, short comedy spot in the bout before being tossed over the top rope. Now, if you remember, what happened with Otis is he laid out a few blokes, went to do the Caterpillar. As he did the Caterpillar, then went to do his finisher, jumping off the ropes, and just stood there until King Corbin just pushed him over the top rope. Basically, apparently the plan was to have Angel Garza come in, rip his trousers off, and then immediately get eliminated. I assume it wouldn't have been Corbin because that would have been heel on heel, but yeah, I don't know. Angel Garza is one of the most talented guys I think that has risen up the ranks in recent memory in WWE, and yet there was talk of him being the next Eddie Guerrero, and then they just sort of went, oh no, not bothered by that anymore. I'm interested in this toy. What do you reckon, Gareth?
It's an odd one because you do get that feeling of perhaps too much too soon. Because obviously he came onto the scene in NXT, had a few great matches. I believe it was against I always forget his name now. The Moth, the Man of the Hour.
Leo Rush.
Leo Rush.
Yeah,
he had a few matches.
Was so good.
Yeah, and like everyone was like, oh god, this guy's going to do really well. And then he suddenly just popped up on Raw and we were like, oh great, yeah, rocket on this guy's back, let's see what happens. And it just, maybe it was overexposure, maybe it was just Vince McMahon going, yeah, I like his trousers, man. And after that, nothing, like just that's all he has. It's a strange one because he can go in the ring, he's proven that, and he's got a gimmick that's quite simple but is a little bit over with the whole trouser thing. It's just, you know what you're going to get. It would have been nice seeing him in the Rumble. I feel like Otis, it's weird that Otis was the man who replaced him because I believe Otis announced himself in the Rumble weeks before, so you had to think he was already going to be in that Rumble, but maybe just like replaced him in that kind of spot.
Exactly,
It's a weird one. I would have liked to see him in it because it probably would have given the match a bit more flavour, a bit something a little bit different, a bit more comedy in it. It's weird. I feel like he's just not been given his due, to be fair, over the last in recent times. It's quite sad.
The eternal optimist in me, the Simon Miller on my shoulder, is saying they're just taking him off TV, hopefully making quite a few people forget about him, so that when they have fans back and they can go near them and try and flirt with them, that is when they're going to bring him back. Here's hoping, because like you say, if you remember his match with Lio Rush back down in NXT, and all that Cruiserweight Championship stuff. I mean, it's weird because that was also around the time I think he proposed. So it was weird to have like, he's a Lothario, to ignore the fact that he was very romantic and he proposed to his girlfriend in the middle of the ring. So he's hoping he returns to the ring soon and just showcases what brilliant talent he has.
Yeah, if you needed a reminder that Vince McMahon does not see NXT as canon, there it is.
Yeah.
That's your reminder. But speaking of NXT, we've got somebody huge in more ways than one has signed a developmental deal with NXT, with WWE, and his name is, I apologise if I butcher this, I'm not very good at like French pronunciation, so we will try. It is Parker Bourdreaux. Bourdreaux. Yeah, him. He's an incredibly formidable person, so I'm terrified now that he's just going to hunt me down, just murder me in my little Gateshead flat. But yeah, according to Dave Meltzer, Wrestling Observer, said that the 22-year-old Bourdreaux has been signed to a developmental deal with NXT. If you've seen recently, he's had quite a lot of praise off a few people. He's had praise off Paul Heyman. He's been pictured with Eva Marie at the All Red Everything Royal Rumble viewing party, and everyone's like, oh my god, if they get signed and like they come to WWE, they could be a thing, they could be a duo, which would be really good. It'd be like very similar to, I guess, the Karrion Kross kind of presentation that we have right now in NXT. So that'd be quite cool. If you don't know much about Bourdreaux, and I'm just going to stop trying to say his name, Bourdreaux. Oh, it's so bad. He missed last season for the University of Central Florida football team. A big football player. If you've seen the guy on Twitter and Instagram, he's just huge. He looks like the next coming out Brock Lesnar. That's why he called himself the next big thing. He was due to return to action in 2021 for his senior year in college football, but instead, the 6'4", 301 pound offensive lineman. I don't know much about NFL, so I don't know what position that is. I just know that's a huge dude. He opted to quit the team in order to focus on his pro wrestling career. Seems like a good call right now because this dude looks like a force of nature.
Yes, I'm very excited looking at someone like him, as no doubt Vince McMahon will be. I don't think a trip's needed to take much convincing to Vince when he probably just took an 8x10 and went, this bloke, sign him? Yeah, sounds good. Slight concern for you, Gareth. The last time we did a report on him, it was when everyone was initially talking about him a few months back. I believe JR actually highlighted him as well and said, like, this guy looks mint. And Mr., I'm going to say Bourdreaux. I'm going to go with Bourdreaux. I get confused, and it doesn't help that you're comparing him to the Karrion Kross thing because of Scarlett Bordeaux. But yes, he actually messaged us when we last talked about him. So be gentle with Gareth. He tried with that surname. But yeah, he looks like an absolute monster. And what with, like you say, Karrion Kross and hopefully when he recovers soon, Rich Bloody Holland, they've got some monsters down in NXT.
Yeah, I'm very much looking forward to the absolute meat fest. But you've just seen the difference there in WhatCulture Wrestling. That's a professional pronouncing a name professionally. This is an idiot looking at a name, panicking, and just trying to roll an R. So it is what it is. It is what it is.
Right, let's move on to our Twitter questions. At WhatCulture WWE, of course, if you want to get in touch with us. First question today comes from Jake and says, good morning, gents. What do you say to Dominic Mysterio being the one to finally defeat Santos Escobar for the Cruiserweight Championship? This moving Dominic to the black and gold brand full time. I thought I would ask Mr. NXT that question.
Well, that's a really interesting question. Not even thought of that, but it'd be great for Dominic to be on what should be the developmental brand in WWE. It's not been that for a while now, let's all be honest, but it'd be really cool seeing him there. Santos Escobar is an incredibly capable pair of hands to be working with right now. If you watched any of his matches during his reign as champion, he's not really put a foot wrong, to be honest, so I think it'd be great having him work that match. Would he win the title? It'd be a huge rub for him. It'd be great for him to maybe have a little bit of a run with it, but again, maybe that too much too soon thing. Just working with him in general, I think, would be great. And just seeing Rey Mysterio involved in that little thing, it'd give a bit more prestige to the title. I think that'd be good news all around. Whether it happens or not is a different question entirely.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think him challenging for it is the right idea. I'm a huge fan, one of the few defenders of El Legado del Fantasma on our NXT review podcast. I think what Santos Escobar is doing is really enjoyable. Personally, if you can ask who I think should take the title off him, Jake Atlas, because he has one of the best finishers in all of wrestling. But yeah, moving Dominic to NXT, maybe, like you say, having his father mentor him down there, maybe it'll get more viewers. That's the direction they want to go in, and I think he would do really well to work with quite a few people down there, because he's had a great time in WWE since arriving, and fingers crossed more of the same and less of King Corbin. Right, Chris 2 gives us our second question of the day, saying, "Morning gents, isn't repackaging a wrestler to return to the title picture to lose kind of pointless? Carmella is back to being mid-card now, when she could have made herself credible by taking on another baby face first." What do you think about this, Gareth?
It's a tough one, because me and Phil spoke about this when Carmella was first revealed as like the new challenger to Sasha Banks as soon as she did return. She was never going to win that feud. No offense to Carmella, but Sasha Banks is just on fire right now, and they weren't going to take that belt off her with all the Mandalorian stuff going on and all the rest of it. Just was not going to happen. So I feel like it's helped her because she's put on some great matches. I think everyone's come out of this mini feud and all the rest of it and just said, Carmella looks like she can go in the ring now. That's helped her prestige. She didn't need to win the belt. It's definitely helped her stand in. Now you put her in the ring with somebody like Bianca Belair, you go, okay. I'm quite intrigued what they would do in a match together. I'd be quite happy to see Bianca Belair maybe have to overcome Carmella before getting maybe a title shot at WrestleMania. Maybe she puts it on the line against Carmella, do something like that. It's just there's story beats that can help flesh out the next couple of weeks, couple of months on the road to WrestleMania. So I don't have a massive problem with how she's being used.
No, I agree. I think to a certain extent I agree. If you brought like Samoa Joe back and he immediately lost and then dropped into the mid-card, I think that's the case. Although I think Carmella, like you say, fit in perfectly as a sort of interim challenger that people thought maybe she'll win it so Sasha can win it back. But generally we thought that Sasha was just going to retain. And I love that booking. Just have Bianca Belair destroy Carmella, beat her in minutes to showcase, bloody hell, Sasha Banks has got a job on her hands here. And also, I'm very excited for just thinking about what Bianca Belair could do to Reginald in the interim, because it was bad enough when he was flipping about with Sasha. Bianca Belair lifted up Otis and walked around the ring with him. So good luck if you're Reginald. I'm a big fan, but be careful, because she will snap you like a sodden twig. Right, final question today comes from CHF Omega on Twitter, who says, "When will we finally see Evolution 2? WWE have the best women's roster. Could we finally get it in 2021, Gareth?"
I was very confused there. I thought you meant the second coming of the Evolution stable. That's where I give you the funny. I was like, sorry, what? I want this. Sasha Banks wants this. Everybody wants this. Like, it just makes all the sense in the world. Why isn't it happening? And why you're at it, give us another Mae Young Classic, because it's just every time the women in this company have been given the ball, they've goddamn sprinted with it. And I think Evolution still, in my mind, one of the best pay-per-views that WWE have put on over the last 5, maybe even 10 years, you want to push it that far. It felt special, it felt different, it felt like everyone had a point to prove, and they proved it. They more than proved it. So I want this. Whether it happens or not is another question, but I think if it were to happen, I think they'd wait until you can get crowds back in an arena. But I think that would be to its benefit right now, because we're not going to get massive crowds in arenas, so you could do it in a nice, let's say, a smaller venue, which feels a bit more atmospheric when you have less people in it and all the rest of it. I think that would play into their corner for it.
No, I think you're absolutely spot on. That is what they need to do. And I thought the agreement was pretty obvious between fans and WWE. We'll not be happy about it, but we'll allow you to do the Saudi Arabia shows so long as we get a Women's Evolution pay-per-view. They didn't deliver on that. They're obviously going to have to maybe catch up, you would assume, with some of the shows they've promised, or at least extend that deal they've got going with Saudi Arabia, which I wouldn't be happy about, because it buggers up lots of storylines with some people not being able to go or not wanting to go, quite rightly, to Saudi Arabia. So as a balance to that, let's have a yearly Evolution pay-per-view. Because like you say, you could just off the top of your head book 10 matches right now with that insane roster they've got across Raw, SmackDown, NXT, and just the developmental people they've signed recently. It's bonkers that they don't have a regular pay-per-view. And the Mae Young Classic, yeah, bring that back too. Right, let's move on to today's and finally, and it relates back to a story we talked about earlier. The next big thing, Parker Bourdreaux, with the story breaking, of course, of him reportedly signing with WWE. I just wanted to mention Matt Riddle's response to this, who took a photo of the story and then just responded by saying, "He looks like Brock Lesnar, but younger and doesn't hate me enough to refuse a match with me yet." Awesome.
Oh, there's time, Mr. Wilborn. There is time. I mean, God loves a worker. He's trying to get that match.
I love Riddle when he does stuff like just poking the bear. And the biggest bears, Goldberg and Brock Lesnar. Sweet Jesus, what are you doing? Although I think Bourdreaux actually responded to this with the side eyes emoji. So maybe, who knows? But I wouldn't piss off Brock Lesnar. He's just stomping around his farm right now, waiting to be allowed to fly back to WWE. So careful what you wish for, Riddle. Right, let us know your thoughts on that and all today's news stories in the comments section below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And subscribe to WhatCulture Wrestling on either iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts from for daily wrestling podcasts with myself and Gareth and Phil talking about SmackDown a little bit later on today. Plus, you can let us know your thoughts and Twitter questions on Twitter at WhatCultureWW. And watch there, you can follow both of us. You can follow Gareth Morgan at
GMorgan04.
You can follow me at Adam Wilborn. You can follow our lovely editor Phil at Phil My Chambers, and follow us all at WhatCulture WWE, as I said. But for now, my thanks to Gareth. Thank you for joining us, and we will see you soon.